Joining us from Larimer County, Colorado, Sheriff Justin Smith. Sheriff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Cam. Thank you very much.
You bet. Had you heard, by the way, about the buyback in Boulder?
I was generally familiar with it. I hadn't heard the latest news, and I guess, if anything, maybe one good thing came out of this legislation. It killed one of those silly buyback programs.
Yeah, I think so. I was curious how this was going to work, and I'm glad to see the sheriff there in Boulder County said, well, upon further reflection, it's really not going to work. Now, I think the same could be said, Sheriff, about a lot of these new gun laws in Colorado. They're not going to work.
Absolutely not. These are extremely onerous. As we saw around the country, Cam, they were pitched to citizens, under the terms common sense and things like that, and they gave them nice titles. But the citizens of this state, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, are seeing how onerous these are in application, and this is just a wedge of how much this comes down on every transfer of a firearm or loan of a firearm.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the loan of a firearm, because one of the things that a lot of people may not realize here, anytime your gun is out of your possession for more than 72 hours, you actually have to undergo a background check in order to get your gun back.
Absolutely. They criminalized all kinds of law-abiding, normal gun ownership behaviors, and people were just awakening to that. Heck, in fact, even further than that Boulder example, when I issue a firearm to a deputy, if they're going to have it more than 72 hours, the sheriff, the deputy, have to walk down to a gun store and fill out paperwork, and the same thing when he gives it back.
Are you kidding me? So, wow.
Yeah, and that's how poorly they were written. Now, I'll tell you another example how this impacts normal Coloradans. We've unfortunately had way too many wildfires over the last few years. When I have to evacuate residents and they leave their home, take firearms, and seek refuge at a friend's house, they leave those firearms there more than 72 hours, thanks to Bloomberg and company and our governor and legislature. They made criminals out of all those folks.
This is this is amazing. And Sheriff, I mean, let's just talk about it. For you to try and enforce these laws. First of all, if I leave my gun with a friend of mine for 4 days so that he can go hunting, and then he gives it back to me, and we don't undergo the background check, at the time you're not going to know, right? I mean, this is something that you may investigate after the fact, I suppose, but I I know how precious law enforcement resources are to a guy like you. You nor your deputies need to be wasting your time on cases like this. Don't you have bigger fish to fry?
Absolutely not, Cam. That's the issue. These would tie up law enforcement resources, focusing on law-abiding citizens instead of criminals, creating these silly investigations of when somebody had a firearm when they're legal to possess a gun. The gun's not stolen. I tell you, the sheriffs around Colorado said, "Why do we care?" Where a law-abiding citizen got a gun and how long they had it. I just want to know, can they defend themselves until hopefully a deputy can show up to help them?
Absolutely. Not to mention the fact, how many people do you have in Larimer County, Sheriff?
300,000 residents here.
So you got a fair amount of people there. I'm guessing that there are some rural counties where sheriff and the deputies know an awful lot of their neighbors and folks who live there. I mean, I'm sure this would work for you and your deputies too. How are you gonna effectively be the mayor if the people of Larimer County are looking at your office, or sheriff, excuse me, if the people are looking at your office as overbearing, as the guys who are going to investigate you giving your gun to your hunting buddy? I just can't imagine the damage that could be done here.
Absolutely. I think you come to the core. People have wondered over time. We had it posed to us over the last couple of decades. Why isn't a sheriff merely an appointed official like a police chief? Well, now we're finding out, of the divine intervention and the wisdom to create government in this country as we have. It's become very clear in the last several months and few years, if it were not for elected county sheriffs, the rights of the citizens, certainly to self-defense, would be tremendously rolled back around this nation. And we don't mean to blow this issue up, but sheriffs really are that line. In Colorado, we made the determination with the things they shoved at our citizens, this has to be our Alamo. This has to be the last line of defense, and we have to stand here. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, taking our governor and our legislature into federal court.
Yeah, and to that end, I got to say, Sheriff, I got my copy of America's First Freedom over the weekend, and I really liked that picture of all of those sheriffs, yourself included, there on the steps of the state capitol in Colorado, and just to see the numbers of elected officials and law enforcement officials who are standing up for our right to keep bear arms. I got to say, it really made me proud.
I could not have been prouder than to stand with that group of men and women, stand up for our citizens. And one of the important things, Cam, the message that's going around our state and our country is this is not simply Republican sheriffs. It's Republicans, independents, Democrats, you name it. We're all standing tall, standing strong. And the nice thing about that picture is right in the background is the governor's office there in the state capitol. I think if you look close, he's probably peering out the window, wondering where all those sheriffs are going to storm his capitol.
Well, yeah, I have a feeling you're right. Where is the lawsuit right now? What's the status?
That's an excellent question. We are in federal district court in Denver. The case has been filed. We're in the discovery phase of it right now, so it's a lot of the background work. One of the things that we did was filed for a temporary injunction on a couple of the areas on the magazine ban that we believed were very dangerous for folks, and they had a couple of terms on continuous possession is the only way you could continue to own one, and the other was if the magazine was designed in a manner to be readily convertible or intended to be readily convertible to hold more rounds than the 15, that there was no way for honest citizens to comply with that. Police couldn't comply with portions of that. We asked for that stay, and I can tell you, 11th hour before we had that injunction hearing, the attorneys for the state backed down. They ceded to all of our demands. We didn't end up with the injunction. We ended up with the state acknowledging it was unenforceable. So we have a trial date set. It looks like it's going to be end of this year, if not first of next. The state wants to drag it out. Hey, we said, you know what, we know Heller, we know McDonald, we know the Second and 14th Amendment, we know what's in these laws. Let's just take it to. So we're trying to move as quick as possible. They're dragging their feet. They don't want this stuff in an election year. They don't want to have to answer for what they did on behalf of Mayor Bloomberg.
Well, Sheriff, again, I really appreciate you coming on the program, sir. Thank you for all that you're doing. And wildfires under control right now in Larimer County?
We're good this year. We were devastated last year. This year, unfortunately, we have floods that are going through our fire zones. There's other parts of the state still having wildfires. And certainly, we know your listeners and folks around the country, thoughts and prayers are with our citizens. They stand by us. We appreciate it, and we're proud to stand by them on issues of defending their rights as citizens.
All right, Sheriff, thank you again, sir. I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
You bet, Cam. Have a great day.